Zach with the Movie Castle. Today we're going to be talking in brief about all the movies that I saw in June. Now, May, I saw 4 movies. June, I actually saw 8 movies. 8. So, gonna try to make each of these reviews pretty quick. Not go on too long, or this video is going to be really long. The first movie I saw in June, if you saw my May, I mentioned this, actually came out on the very last day of May, but I didn't get to see it on that very last day of May, so it's now the first movie I saw in June, and that movie is Ma, starring Octavia Spencer. Now, Ma, the plot is these kids want to party, but they're too young to buy beer, so they approach this woman, who they later nickname Ma, and say, "Will you buy the beer for us?" And she's like, "Yeah," and then she starts to get them to party in her basement. However, it's one of those horror movies that, they slowly overstep boundaries, but you also learn about this character's past, and she has a really well-developed past, and the beginning, it's slow because it's really setting up, and it builds to a really good climax, very good ending. A little bit reminiscent of, a few Stephen King stories, particularly there's little bits of misery in here. I really liked it. It's not as good as it could have been, it could have had, more scares sprinkled out through the beginning, and, could have moved a little faster, but, other than that, it's still a pretty good movie. Not the best thing ever, but it's still pretty solid. I'm going to give Ma an 84.16. Up next, I actually got to go to a Fathom event screening, Riff Tracks Live Star Raiders. Now, for those of you who don't know what Riff Tracks is, there used to be a show called Mystery Science Theater 3000. And it's this guy and 2 robots who would watch movies in this theater, and they would make fun of the movies as they were playing. It was like this commentary that would go over the movies, and after the show ended, the cast of Riff Tracks started to release audio files, so you could essentially do the same thing they were doing on their show by playing this audio file over the movie. Now, Riff Tracks Live is essentially, you go to a theater that has a Fathom screening, and they'll broadcast. They're doing it in like one theater, and they broadcast all the other ones, and you get to watch them live watching a movie and making fun of it. And it's all these really old cheesy movies. This particular one, actually a new cheesy movie, Star Raiders. It's one of those movies where it's supposed to be a alien planet, but it's the woods and a green screen for bigger stuff. And I tell you, seeing it live in a theater, it's great. I always thought they were funny, but man, there's some guy sitting behind us in this theater who thought it was hilarious. Every little joke, he would laugh like crazy. And it's just such a better experience seeing it with people that are actually there. I don't think this particular one is right now, but there's a ton of Riff Track stuff on Amazon Prime where they, instead of having to buy the audio file and sync it, you can watch the movie with their riff on Amazon Prime. There's quite a few of them. So, if you're a Mystery Science Theater fan that hasn't heard of it, or if the concept sounds good, I would definitely go to Amazon Prime, check out some of their stuff, or go to their website, buy the riffs themselves. They're really fun, and I got to see it live, and it's so much better live. I'm going to give Riff Tracks Live Star Raiders a 94.64. And I want to make it clear, I'm giving that rating to their riff of the movie, and not to Star Raiders. Star Raiders isn't that great of a movie, but their riff of it is really fun. Up next we have X-Men Dark Phoenix, or actually just Dark Phoenix. Officially there's no X-Men in the title. The little circle at the end of Phoenix has a An X? Yeah, I know, it's weird. But anyway, this one is essentially a remake of X-Men 3-ish. It tells the Dark Phoenix saga from the comics in a super abridged way. Basically, you find out that Jean Grey, when she was younger, had big powers that she couldn't control and caused this car wreck with her parents, at which point she was given to Professor Xavier, who wiped a lot of those memories. Then the X-Men go to space, and not only being powerful, but now in space she absorbs the Phoenix Force, and she starts to go a little bit uncontrollable. Now, this movie, it didn't work in a lot of ways. I find there are, bad movies where they make you angry, and then bad movies where you're just like, that could have been better. And it's the latter. It's it could have been better. It didn't do anything that super explicitly made you mad, There was nothing that, broke canon any more than they normally break canon, because time travel messes stuff up. But, there wasn't anything that you left the theater going, I'm ticked. But there wasn't anything where you left the theater going, yeah, the new cast just never clicked as well as the old one. And sometimes, First Class was pretty good, and Days of Future Past was pretty good, but then when the stories don't click, a lot of people who are excited for this were thinking about, Deadpool and Logan. But you need to remember that it is in the same universe as Deadpool and Logan, but more than that, this is a sequel to Apocalypse. And Apocalypse was disappointing. This one's also disappointing. It's about like Apocalypse, except for the scale isn't as big, although Apocalypse did one of those things, where, I mentioned things that make you angry. It's like, okay, why is Storm evil in X-Men Apocalypse? That was a weird decision I didn't like. But this one, it just kind of fizzled out, and you can tell a lot of the actors were like, it's over anyway, what do we care? And it's sad that this is it, unless New Mutants ever comes out. Whew. Can it just come out? I don't know. Anyway, it's not the worst thing ever, but it just doesn't really have much going on with it. It's sad. It's just not much there. I'm going to give Dark Phoenix a 71.64. Up next, completely different kind of movie, The Dead Don't Die, directed by Jim Jarmusch. It's a hard name. Jim Jarmusch. I try. Starring Bill Murray and Adam Driver. It's a movie about the zombie apocalypse starting in a small town, and it's really weird and quirky and takes his time. Now, you know that Bill Murray is funny, and the surprising thing is how funny Adam Driver is. We knew Bill Murray would be funny. We're like, okay, Adam Driver from Star Wars, okay, he's actually hilarious too. And the two work off each other really well. They're the best parts of the movie. When you get other characters around, it's fine, but you really want to get to the Bill Murray, Adam Driver part. They work well, they're both funny, and I did not know Adam Driver was funny. This movie is really weird and quirky, and it's not for everyone. Some people say, oh, Bill Murray is returning to a comedy horror, but I do want to say that this is not like Ghostbusters. It's not, and a lot of people are like, Bill Murray, comedy horror, but no, it's not. It's a good movie, but it is not the same thing. Standard comedy, laugh-a-minute crazy type stuff. This is slow and quirky, and it will turn a lot of people off because it is deliberately slow, especially at the beginning, and it is deliberately quirky, and it does weird stuff, and if you're not into kind of art house comedy films, this is not going to be for everyone, and there's some humor that a lot of people are going to find annoying. Personally, I found this movie hilarious. I mean, the thing with slow movies is if it's slow and you're not on board, it's going to be torture. But if you're slow and you're on board, you're like, that's fine, I'm enjoying myself. You know, it can take all the time at once. And The Dead Don't Die, I was totally on board, just watching this small town slowly get succumbed by zombies and this really weird and unusual mannerisms that people go about it. Personally, I thought it was hilarious, and I would definitely recommend checking it out. I'm going to give The Dead Don't Die a 90.14. I would really like to rewatch that one. That was funny. The next movie I saw, Men in Black International. Now, the first Men in Black, classic. The second one, definitely a dip in quality, and then the third one was okay. Now we got Men in Black International for the first time. We're looking at two different agents other than the ones we saw at the beginning. These are played by Chris Hemsworth and Tessa Thompson. And to be fair, this movie, it tries, and there are some parts that kind of work. And it's good to see the universe again. But the plot is kind of slow and rambling. And in Men in Black, you expect at least a couple really laugh-out-loud moments. The character Pawnee got a few jokes as the little alien that sits on Tessa Thompson's shoulder. And there were a few moments that were kind of, okay. But Men in Black was one of those that you watch the first one, it's big laughs. It's like, oh man, can you believe that moment? The real deep down laughs. And there were none of those. There were a few okay jokes. I saw the trailer and I was worried that Pawnee was going to be one of those Jar Jar Kids characters. And he was definitely made to be the comic relief character, which is kind of odd that to have a comic relief character in a comedy. But Pawnee actually worked. Chris Hemsworth and Tessa Thompson are good actors with good chemistry together, and you like them just because of, their charisma, but the material they're working with, it just isn't really that funny, and you can tell they're trying, and they're good actors, and I want to see them in more things, especially, I don't know really what Marvel's doing, but I love Thor Ragnarok. Give me more of that. Thor Ragnarok, one of the top 5 Marvel movies, and I would love to see more of that. And I was hoping I'd see more of it here, and then they tried, and it just wasn't as funny as I was hoping. It was kind of rambly, and there wasn't the big laughs. I don't know what to say, and it's weird with comedy, especially, it either works or it doesn't, and it's hard to say exactly why it doesn't work, but overall, I wanted more, and it was okay, but it wasn't really that great. I'm going to give Men in Black International 75.14. Up next, I saw Shaft, starring Samuel L. Jackson. Now, I was actually unfamiliar with the Shaft movies before this. I had heard about them a little bit, but I hadn't actually seen one, unless you count Django Unchained, which is really early on Wild West prequel, technically. If you look it up, Tarantino said it's the same universe, but I hadn't really got to see any of the other ones, and it's just something I didn't know too much about. But then I saw the trailer, and the trailer looked hilarious, and I was like, okay, I've never seen any Shaft movie before. I get the gist of it, but I want to see this one. And Samuel L. Jackson is a great actor, and a lot of times he's the best part of a movie. You look at some movies, you're like, hey, Samuel L. Jackson was cool in that, but he's great. Snakes on a Plane, Pulp Fiction, Nick Fury, who really should have got his own standalone movie by now. Whatever. Anyway, Shaft was Samuel L. Jackson doing what he does best. What happens is he gets separated from his son because of his lifestyle. Some people try to kill him, and his son's in the backseat of the car, and the wife goes, "The son could have died. I want to keep him safe." So the son grows up to be, in modern culture, very politically correct, and he needs help, and he knows that his dad can help him. One of his friends is murdered, and the police think it was just an overdose, but he knows something's up. So he goes and he reconnects with his father, who he hasn't seen in years and years and years. And the two of them, the one being the straight man, the other being the comedic one, and it's the old and the new colliding with each other, and it really does serve to be a commentary on what the old ways were like and what the new ways are like, without really, tearing down the old ways and saying, look, things used to be like this, and it's rough and tumble, but it's not bad. It's, it gets things done, and you get to see Samuel L. Jackson going in, being no nonsense, and it was hilarious. I love this movie. Really, really funny. I mean, there's few little issues every movie has. Like the plot kind of goes around in circles, where they're like, maybe it's this guy, maybe it's that guy, and there are a few moments you're like, I don't know about that. But overall, really funny. If you like Samuel L. Jackson, you should watch Shaft. I'm going to give it an 84.08. Next we have Child's Play, the 2019 reboot. This one stars Mark Hamill, and it follows a kind of similar plot. There's a single mother with her son who gives the son the Chucky doll, except for it's not a good guy doll, it's a buddy doll. And rather than magic, this time Chucky is a malfunctioning AI that's had his safety removed by a disgruntled employee, and now it's open to do anything and things that it's not supposed to do. Now, when you try a remake that does something completely different, you definitely run a risk. I mean, a lot of remakes try to be really similar and do pretty much exactly what the first one did, in which case it doesn't feel like there's much of a point. I mean, you even got Vince Vaughn's Psycho doing a near shot-for-shot, or maybe perfect shot-for-shot remake of the original Psycho, and I don't know why we bothered. This one, it tried something different, and it worked fairly well. I mean, you look at Rob Zombie's Halloween, that tried something different and created a big controversy, what's going on, but this, fairly successful. You got Mark Hamill playing Chucky, and he's learning and growing, and so he's not just a psychopathic doll right at the beginning, and he's starting to become the Chucky we know, and it's a interesting and different take on the character. Now, it's not a perfect movie. A lot of people say, Chucky looks weird, and there's a few things you're like, okay, that didn't quite work, and it's not as over the top and crazy as the first Child's Play. The first Child's Play was running around with the knives and insanity, and this is a lot more toned down, but it's still pretty good, and I would recommend checking it out if you're at all interested in it. I'm going to give the remake of Child's Play an 83.92. Now, if you're wanting to hear more about it, I kind of made that one a little shorter because I do actually have a full review for 2019 Child's Play on my channel. So, go to my videos and check it out if you want to hear more. There's a lot of people probably talking about it. You can go watch a ton of reviews for this. If it sounds interesting, go and watch it. Not the best movie in the world, not as good as the original, but still pretty good, and Mark Hamill, so check it out if you're interested in. The next one, and actually the last movie that I saw in June, Annabelle Comes Home. Now, critics hate this movie, and I get why, it's no piece of art. But personally, I love this movie because I love really fun horror movies, and more so than a lot of things, this movie really wants to have fun. You know, it's like going into a haunted house. The plot's relatively simple. It all takes place in one night. The Warrens are out on an investigation. They leave their daughter home alone with a babysitter. The babysitter's friend comes over, and the friend's father died in a car wreck. Wanting to try to figure out wanting to contact her father, I said that like the new It movie, wanting to contact her father, she goes into the Warren's artifact room, touches a bunch of stuff, and then opens Annabelle's box, letting the power out and activating all the other things in the museum. And this is one that I wanted to see, because you see the Warren's artifact room, and you're like, what's this do? What's that do? And this you get to see, like, the werewolf ghost, the ferryman, this board game that comes to life, and there's a lot, the wedding dress killer, so you get to see a whole bunch of fun and creative ghosts, and the critics go, well, these are just commercials for potential spin-offs, and in a way they are, but don't you think movies should try to design characters that looks cool and interesting enough that they could have their own movies? And I know it's kind of dumb, but it's really, really a fun movie. It's a haunted house, one night in a haunted house with lots of well-designed, colorful characters coming at you, and it is great. I would love to see a movie about each of them. They all look cool. But the one thing, they didn't do much with the I want to know more about the Symbol Monkey. He shows up for just a little bit. I want a whole movie about the Symbol Monkey. That's all I ask. Symbol Monkey. Anyway, it's fun. It's not super serious, but it is, you know, a bunch of cool ghosts running around. And I totally get why critics don't like it. But, I mean, I like a bunch of goofy, fun horror movies, and this is right up my alley. And granted that these are my personal ratings, and not what I think it means to the culture zeitgeist. I don't know if I'm using that word right. But these are my personal ratings. They're not what I think the world thinks of it. I'm going to give it a 92.16. I want to watch it again. It was just, it's just a fun, scary movie. Up next, want to cover the things I didn't see. I never got around to seeing Toy Story 4. I talked to someone who saw it. They said it was pretty good. But the thing is, when Toy Story 3 came out, it was like nostalgia for me. And it was like, I remember the first two when I was a kid. And it was this big event. Toy Story 3 was great. But then, it was like, they didn't make an immediate sequel. They waited a little while longer, and they're like, Toy Story's back! And I'm like, you can't really do that same thing again, that event of a thing from your childhood coming back again. And you're like, oh, I get to see it again through this fresh new light. They already did that once. It didn't feel big and special to have a fourth Toy Story. It felt like, okay, they just made another one. And I'm too old by this point. I mean, I don't have kids, and it's a kid's movie, and I don't know, I was just, it feels weird just to go and watch a kid's movie on your own, like, I don't know, the nostalgia factor was gone, so I didn't watch it. I'll probably end up seeing it on Netflix or something. The other one, I wanted to see, Luc Besson had a movie called Anna that came out. I wanted to see it, but really I saw 8 movies in June. 8 movies, like, That's 2 a week. So Anna on any other month I would have saw it, but it kind of just got flooded out. Basan did Lithim Nikita and Fifth Element, and more recently he did Valerian and the City of the Thousand Planets, which wasn't perfect, but is actually kind of overlooked. And if you're interested in that sort of thing, check it out. But I never got around to seeing Anna. I kind of wanted to. Maybe when it's on DVD, I'll pick it up or something. Anyway, so thanks for sticking with me. That was a long video, 8 movies. Next time, I'm going to cover the Hammer version of Maniac. Now, there's the whole, the one that came in the 80s, and there's the one Netflix did, that are actually unrelated to each other. They all just share the same title. This is the Hammer version of Maniac, and that's what I'll be doing next time, and I'll see you guys then. Have a good day.